of it. So I'm just going to move on. This is your full skeleton and everything that you should have labeled on your full skeleton. And I made you guys do this because I wanted you guys to see the big picture instead of everything, individually. Which, by the way, if you go on and you look at that bundle that I've created for you, there are several games that you guys can play and tutorials to kind of help review the bones. And I also have 2 videos on that I want you guys to watch. Those are mandatory. The games, the review stuff, you can use it if you want, if it's going to help you. But definitely check over all of this and make sure you have everything labeled correctly on your full skeleton. This is a picture of what the inside of a bone looks like. If you don't already know, what bone is this? This would be the femur. Okay. All of your bones have a fibrous covering called the periosteum. And, this is kind of, if you want to think of it as like a rag that wraps around your bone, you can do that. But tendons attach muscles to bones, and ligaments attach bone to bone. And ligaments and tendons actually fuse with this fibrous covering. So, ligaments and tendons are also made of fibers. So it's kind of easier to think of it as that than, a tendon just attaching to a hard bone. But your bone is basically made up of your, the ends of the bone are called epiphyses. So each of these is an epiphysis. If you're talking about both of them, you're talking about epiphyses. So the proximal, that's closest to the point of attachment to the body. Distal, farthest from the point of attachment of the body. And then your shaft is your diaphysis. Basically the middle part of the bone is your diaphysis. Now this is actually showing yellow marrow, which tells me that this is probably the femur of an adult. As you age, the marrow that's found in your long bones turns into yellow marrow, which yellow marrow stores fat. Red marrow manufactures your blood cells. As a baby and as a little child, most of the marrow found in all your bones, it tends to be red. But then as you age, in your long bones, the red turns to yellow. But the marrow fills this medullary cavity. And so this marrow would fill this cavity, and it would also actually go up and start to fill in these spaces of the spongy bone. The compact bone lines. It lines basically the entire outside of the bone. Okay, so that's why I'm taking the highlighter and doing this. This is all compact bone, all right? So the spongy bone, it looks like a sponge, but if you were to take your finger and actually press on that, that's not going to be spongy. It's going to be hard, but it is porous looking, all right? And then you can see that blood vessels, they pierce through the bone, they go into the cavity, then they pierce again, because you have cells that live in your bone, and those cells, they need nutrients, they need blood to be able to get to them, to get everything they need, because they're cells. They're cells just like any other cell in their body. They need oxygen, they need glucose, they need to get rid of their waste like carbon dioxide. So bone has a very extensive canal system, which I want to go on to the next slides. And this is just a different view. You can see the compact bone, no spaces, versus the spongy bone, spaces. All right, this is just another view of what we just looked at. We looked at the medullary cavity. So you're looking at a cross section kind of right here of bone. And so you can see here we have an artery and a vein, and here we have a nerve, and they pierce through the bone and they form canals. We actually call these canals that are traveling horizontally, perforating canals, and all of the canals that are going in the vertical fashion, we call central canals. Now, the central canals also go by different names. Sometimes they're called haversian canals. Okay? And when you look at bone, and hopefully you guys will be able to see this in the microscope, you see circular patterns. Okay? And so surrounding a central canal, all right, you have circles, all right, or dark spots. And we call these little dark spots, we call them lacunae, or that's plural. Each one of them is called a lacuna. And you can see it down here. They're like little caves or spaces. They are literally spaces inside of the bone where bone cells live, osteocytes, okay? And the lacuna, or lacunae, sorry, are connected together. So here's a lacuna, here's a lacuna, we have a bone cell in there, we have a bone cell in there. They're connected by little canal systems as well. And we call all of these little canal systems, each of them is a canaliculus, or if you're talking about plural, you would say canaliculi. So basically, you know, everything that these cells need, these osteocytes that live in the lacunae, is basically found here in the blood. So nutrients diffuse out of the vessels and travel through the canaliculi to the lacunae where the bone cells are and give them nourishment. So it's just a big, extensive canal system. And if you're looking at a big circle here, a central canal with the surrounding lacunae, you would call this an osteon. Are you following me? Are you getting confused? Because it can be a little confusing. I went ahead and threw this slide in here because it's showing how muscles work in coordination with your skeletal system. You know, one of the main functions of the skeletal system is it helps your body to move. So here we have the biceps brachii muscle, okay? On the other side, we have the triceps brachii. And so, you know, muscles work by pulling on bones, not pushing. So if you wanted to bring your hand, you know, towards your body, all right, lifting up this 10 kilogram weight here, then your biceps is going to contract, and as it contracts, it's gonna pull on this radius bone. And as it pulls on the radius bone, because of a lever system, your hand is going to move towards your body. Now, if this muscle is contracting, this muscle is actually relaxing. And so it really takes two muscles to move or pull on a bone. And so if your hand wants to go back the other way, all right, like that, then this muscle is going to relax. Your biceps is going to relax. Your triceps is actually going to contract. And when it contracts, it's going to actually be pulling on this ulna. All right? So you're going to have a downward movement because this triceps is pulling on this bone while this is relaxing. Muscles pull. They don't push. This is just a table that just goes over all of the fossas and the condyles and epicondyles and heads and everything that you kind of been learning, trochanters, tubercles, tuberosities, and gives you the definition of them, which you guys are going to be working on a worksheet that kind of goes over these as well. But this table is found in the book. And then this is a table that I thought was interesting that shows you the differences between the male and the female skeleton, particularly with the skull, the pelvic girdle, the pelvic cavity, the sacrum, and the coccyx. Again, another area that I'll probably spend more time talking about in class, but this is an interesting table to maybe look at on your own time. And I think we're done. So this is going to be here for you guys to view whenever you want to. I know that this is something you'll want to listen to every day, but I hope it did help to answer some questions, and you can review it as you need to. So ask me questions in class about anything that I did not cover.